What's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the Wake and Jake College Football Show. First round of the playoffs in the books, and man, it was underwhelming. It was ugly. It was not good. There were no close games, really. You could argue that Clemson Texas was the closest game, and Texas won by 14. So I guess we can't be that surprised. Even when there was just the 14 playoffs, we did still have a lot of blowouts before the national championship game. And when we expanded to 12 teams and you're adding in more and more teams who probably don't really deserve to win the national championship, we can't be shocked when the first round is just full of upsets. So disappointing. It sucked. We were really hoping for some good ones. It really did not live up to the hype, but that's to be expected when you expand it to be this large. But yeah, we'll just kind of review all of the games, also recap my bets this last weekend, and then finish off with my favorite dude are you high. But yeah, before we get into any of that, let's get a little high. All right, right off the bats, we'll just start with Indiana and Notre Dame. Notre Dame 27, Indiana 17. Overall, not a great game. It really wasn't. Now, Notre Dame did score 27 points, but I hate to say that that's deceiving, but it kind of is deceiving just because it's hard to say this, but Indiana's defense really did not play that bad. If we take away Jeremiah Love's 98-yard run, other than that run, he had 7 carries for 10 yards. If we look at everybody else combined, and again, taking away that one singular 98-yard run, Notre Dame only got less than 3 yards per carry running the ball. Riley Leonard, he had 201 passing yards. Took him 32 attempts to get there. That's not good. It should not take you 32 attempts to get to 200 yards passing. If he had over 300 yards passing in 32 attempts, much better. And they also had 10 tackles for loss. Indiana's defense, they were in the right positions. They were getting, penetration. They were getting pressure. They just missed so many tackles. There were so many plays where they had Notre Dame for a loss, or they had them for no gain, 1 yard, 2 yards, and then all of a sudden, a broken tackle later, and Notre Dame gets a first down. It's just, they were there, they just could not quite finish the plays, which was so frustrating, and I'm sure if you were an Indiana fan, you were just pulling your hair out watching that. Now offensively, different story. I thought Indiana would put up more of a fight than they did, because if you ask my humble opinion, Ohio State's defense is better than Notre Dame's. That's just my opinion. And Indiana's offense was able to score a little bit on Ohio State, and I figured it's going to be the same with Notre Dame. They'll at least be able to score a couple touchdowns maybe. Now, Indiana did score 17. I'm not taking that away from them, but that is deceiving, because up until about, I think it was 3 minutes, 2 minutes, something like that, 2 or 3 minutes left in the game, Indiana only had 3 points. They scored 14 points in the final 2 minutes of the game, 3 minutes of the game, whatever it was, to make this game a lot closer than it actually was. Their offensive line just had no answer for Notre Dame. Linebackers, linemen, it didn't matter. Notre Dame was getting pressure. Curtis Rourke had to rush throws. He didn't look great. This game was over pretty early just because you saw how Indiana could not do anything offensively. Sucks because, and we'll kind of get into this a little bit later, with Indiana having such a poor showing, you had all these national media members and SEC fans, Bama fans, South Carolina fans, Ole Miss fans saying, see, Indiana did not deserve to be in the playoffs because they got boat raced by fucking Notre Dame. Indiana was 11-1. Please shut the fuck up about that. I can't listen to that anymore. But Notre Dame wins. I think a lot of people expected that. I thought if this game got into a shootout, Indiana had the upper hand, but this game was never a shootout. Notre Dame now has to go take on Georgia, who, we'll get into that at some point, but Carson Beck is not going to be in that game. So Notre Dame has a shot. And that was Friday night's game. Saturday morning, or afternoon, depending on where you're at, noon game, 11 o'clock game, SMU at Penn State. Yikes. Just yikes. Penn State 38, SMU 10. I said it before the game that if SMU wanted any shot of winning this game, Kevin Jennings needed to have the game of his life. And holy cow, he did not. Kevin Jennings was drunk, he was high, he was whatever. He was out of his element. He played so bad that I almost put him as a winner of Dude Are You High. A little spoiler alert, he did not win, but he was in the running just for how bad he did play. He had less than 200 yards passing, 3 interceptions. 2 of those interceptions were pick sixes, and he could not get anything going with his legs. He was seeing ghosts. He was Sam Darnold seeing ghosts. Penn State, honestly, they didn't even have to do anything offensively, and honestly, they really didn't. They weren't necessarily blowing anybody out of the water with their offense. They just took care of business, and that was it. I'm not saying they played bad offensively. Don't twist my words. I'm just saying they weren't outstanding. They weren't explosive as hell. It's just they were good, and they took care of business. They did what they needed to do. And again, they really didn't have to do much, and I don't think they were trying to do anything crazy. Because even if SMU's defense shut out Penn State's offense, Penn State still would have won. Penn State, because of those 2 pick sixes, SMU just could not do anything offensively. And actually, a few stats from this defense, because it's just wild. And it feels like it should be more in some of these instances, but Penn State's defense had 11 tackles for loss. They only had 3 sacks. And honestly, if you watch that game, it felt like it should have been more than 3 sacks, but 3 sacks is still a good amount. 2 pick sixes, 3 total interceptions, and SMU went 4 of 17 on 3rd and 4th down and had 253 yards of total offense. It just, like I said, the offense for Penn State didn't have to do anything in this game because their defense took care of business, and the offense just couldn't. They just didn't fuck up. That's all they had to do. They just couldn't fuck up, and they didn't. They took care of business. That's going to be the key to this game, or the reoccurring theme is they took care of business. Penn State now goes on to take on Boise State. I mean, quick little early preview for that one. Penn State's moving on. Boise doesn't stand a chance. Ashton Jeanty may break 1 run, but quick little early preview for that one. I don't see it going well for Boise. Clemson and Texas. This was the game of the fucking day. This was the closest game. Just competition-wise, score-wise, all of that, which is so sad. Now, I know Indiana and Notre Dame was a closer score. This felt closer competitively. Clemson 24, Texas 38. Texas did win by 2 touchdowns. And really the only shocking thing about this game is just how much Clemson scored. I really did not think that they would score 20 plus. Cade Klubnik had a pretty good game. TJ Moore also had a great game. There was a great connection going there all game long, especially late in the game. But defensively, Clemson had no answer for Texas' run game. Jaden Blue and Quintravion Wisner, they combined for 29 rushes, over 250 yards, and 4 touchdowns. They got everything they wanted and more. Absolutely no answer for them. Like I said, the shocking thing was how much Clemson was able to score. Now, that being said, one of their scores came on a 4th and goal. Somehow Texas lost track of Moore, and Klubnik found him. They got to 24, and then they got the ball back, marched down the field, got in the red zone. I can't remember if they got to and goal, but regardless, they were down there. They were pushing. They were driving. Texas defense stood up and forced them to fourth down and actually stopped them this time around. So, this game was almost closer. Clemson lost by 2 touchdowns. They were driving a few times. It was a lot more competitive than the score shows, but then also compared to the rest of these games, this was a close game all the way down to the wire, you might as well say, just because of how bad every other game was. Good for Clemson. You guys didn't get completely blown out. You put up some fight compared to everybody else. You scored more than every other losing team, so props to you on that. But Texas, good for them. They move on to play Arizona State, which I think most people think that that's going to be an easy win for Texas. I am not going to go that far just because I do think Arizona State is a good team. That being said, Texas does win that game. I don't see Arizona State winning it, unfortunately. This is going to be the most disappointing game of the whole weekend. It was supposed to be the best game of the weekend. Game day was there. You had 40,000 from what I heard or saw in some places, Tennessee fans at this game, which is insane for an away game, a true away game, not like neutral site, true away game. That's insane. And it was honestly, you could argue the most disappointing game of the first round. It really was. Because before the first round, if you had told me that Indiana and Notre Dame was a blowout, SMU Penn State was going to be a blowout, and that Clemson and Texas would pretty much be a blowout, I wouldn't have been surprised at all. But if you also told me that Tennessee Ohio State was a blowout, I probably would have not agreed with you, wouldn't have believed you, just none of that. I really did not think that this would be such a blowout. It was so fucking terrible. It really was. Ohio State 42, Tennessee 17, just yuck, man. So yucky. Tennessee on offense, I guess this can't be as shocking offensively for Tennessee just because Ohio State does have a great defense. Tennessee only had 256 yards of total offense, less than 4 yards per play. And honestly, it feels like a lot of that came in garbage time, but that's beside the point. Nico was 14 of 31 for 104 yards. Ugly. Ugly, ugly, ugly. But I think the most shocking part of this game was just how bad Tennessee's defense played. We know Ohio State has a $20 million roster. We know that they have talent at the receiver position. But Tennessee, it feels like they just kind of forgot that there was such thing as a drag route. They were just getting beat constantly. Oh my goodness, I really didn't think it would be this bad. Allowed nearly 500 yards of total offense, 42 points. I already mentioned that, but 42 points they allowed. They did not allow that all year. They also allowed Will Howard to go 24 of 29 for over 300 yards. What are we doing? You can't be doing that. Allowing Will Howard to go 24 of 29, brutal. This game, honestly, it might have been uglier than the SMU Penn State game. The only reason that you could argue the other one was uglier is just because of how bad one specific player played for SMU. This was a whole team. So I guess actually this would be uglier because it was a whole team playing terrible, not just one player that essentially lost the game. One thing, though, I'm not understanding with this one, Dylan Sampson. SEC Player of the Year and Offensive Player of the Year. I'm pretty sure he either won it or was in the running for it. He is that offense. The offense runs through him. Nico is the key to winning the game, but Dylan Sampson is that offense. And he didn't play at all. I think he had 2 carries or something like that. They were saying that, and this is what I'm not understanding, he was apparently injured. But at no point did you ever really see him with trainers. Usually if a player's injured and not returning, they are no longer in their pads. They don't have their helmet with them, something along those lines. He had his helmet on the whole time. He was standing along the sidelines like a player would if they were still going to be playing and in the game. and again, didn't play pretty much the whole game or the whole game until late in the game when the game's over. Tennessee has no shot of winning anymore. And then they brought him out. Just some weird things surrounding that. Was he injured? Was he actually not? Why was he not playing? What is going on there? Why was he used when he was used? It made no sense. It felt like something fishy was going on there. Now, if you look on Twitter, you'll see all the conspiracy theories that Vegas wouldn't allow him to play, but only allowed him to play just enough to not allow bets to be voided and yada, yada, yada. I'm not going to buy into that conspiracy. I'm not, unless there's some sort of proof, I'm not buying into that. But I will say the whole situation was weird. It was very weird. So to have a conspiracy theory on it, I'm not shocked just because it was a weird situation. I'm not going to go that far to say Vegas pulled those strings. But like I said, all in all, just a very disappointing first round. I didn't even want to recap the games because they were just that bad and that ugly. But what can we expect? This is 12-team playoff. If you're doing it to figure out, for the sole purpose to figure out the true national champion, is pointless. The 14 playoff was plenty enough to figure out the true national champion. Now, if you're trying to tell me that this 12-team playoff is to create more ratings, a lot more games, better games, making these bowl games matter more so that players stopped opting out, then I'm all for it. I love the 12-team playoff because, like I just said, players are not opting out of these games that they normally would opt out of. You're giving us better matchups, more ranked matchups than we would have gotten any other year. And I get that, and I love that. Yes, these games were blowouts, but I still wanted to watch. I was excited for these games. But trying to say that by doing this you're going to find the true national champion, the BCS did a good enough job. The 14 playoff did an even better job. You didn't need 12 to figure out the true national champion. It just didn't need to happen. But that being said, I'm still all in favor of the 12-team, 14-team, whatever, just for the sole purpose of you're getting more matchups that you would never typically see, and I'm all here for it. Betting recap for the weekend, not great. I did not give out any bets for Indiana Notre Dame just because I really didn't know how to read that one. I was not sure how Indiana would handle Notre Dame, and clearly not great. But I felt pretty confident on the rest of these, and I went 2-3. Not great. Started strong. Penn State -8.5. That was easy as hell. Sweat a little bit on that Texas -13.5. Just because, or 12.5 or whatever it was, just because it got a little dicey at the end there. Clemson under team total, that one, did not see that coming at all. Ohio State to cover, Tennessee to cover, never a chance. Ohio State under 27 points, 27.5, again, never a chance. Not great, but we will get better. I will still give out some picks during bowl season, but nothing unless it's like day of. So, watch Twitter for those if you want, but I will not be giving out bowl bets. I might tell you which way I'm leaning if this happens or if certain players do play, that sort of thing, but I cannot give out any for sure bets. But I will still do it for the playoff, the second round of playoffs, and then even national championship or the quarterfinals. I will still do it for those. But yeah. Let's get into my final segment, my favorite segment. Dude, are you high? Dude, are you high? Like I said, I almost put Kevin Jennings in this one just because of how bad he played. Kind of wanted to put Tennessee in here just as a whole because of how bad they played. Thought about putting Kurt Cignetti on here. I didn't. Instead, and this might be a stretch, some of you might not agree that this should be a dude, are you high, but SEC fans / national media members that were on Twitter yesterday and on TV yesterday bitching that Bama, South Carolina, Ole Miss should all be in the playoffs over Indiana, SMU, whatever, because they were blown out. Shut the fuck up. Are you high? The the one and here's where it was funny because there was one matchup yesterday between teams where nobody had any argument that they should be in the playoffs. When it came to Indiana Notre Dame, everybody said, oh, Indiana doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs, strength of schedule, blah, blah, blah. They went 11-1. Shut the fuck up. They deserve to be in. When it came to SMU and Penn State, so many people, oh, SMU doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs, strength of schedule, blah, 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 blah. 11-1 in the regular season, 11-2 overall. They lost in the championship game. Fuck off. They deserve to be in. Then you get to Clemson and Texas. Well, Clemson doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs. They're 9-3 or 10-3 with that ACC championship win. I kind of agree, but they won the ACC championship game, and when you have the top 5 conference championships automatically get into the playoffs, they deserve to be in because of that stupid rule. So, sorry, because of the rules, they did deserve to be in. The one game, Tennessee and Ohio State, nobody was really arguing, oh, Tennessee doesn't deserve to be there. They went 10-2 in the SEC, so, that's a huge deal because the SEC is so tough and all that stuff. So a 10-2 schedule, even though it's the SEC, great. And then Ohio State, and by the way, Tennessee just 100% deserved to be in the playoffs. That's not me saying that they didn't. Ohio State, 10-2, their losses to Oregon and then Michigan. But nobody was really arguing that neither team deserved to be in. And then Tennessee got destroyed by Ohio State. And if I remember correctly, Alabama lost to Tennessee, who just got blown out by Ohio State. So what makes you think that Alabama wouldn't have gotten blown out in these games, that Ole Miss wouldn't have gotten blown out, that South Carolina wouldn't have gotten blown out? We don't know, but you don't know either, so quit bitching. Your team shouldn't have lost 3 times. And I noticed that after Tennessee got blown out, they got very quiet. Yes, it was later in the night, so maybe half of them were asleep, but these Bama fans, Ole Miss fans, South Carolina fans, national media members, they did get a little quiet once Tennessee was getting blown out. They didn't really have much to say about their teams deserving to be in because the one team, the one matchup where nobody was saying that either side didn't deserve to be there was a blowout. And guys, when we had the 4-team playoff, a lot of those first round games were blowouts. It's going to happen every year. This is the curse of having 12 teams in the playoffs. There's going to be some blowouts. It sucks. It is what it is. Quit bitching. You guys are high. Your teams didn't deserve to be in. Just ridiculous. Appreciate y'all for joining me. Disappointing first round. Like I said, it sucked, but it's football. I'm never going to complain about watching more football. And I'll talk to you guys later this week. This is going to be a little different coming up. I am going to do a preview, obviously, of next weekend's bowl games. And then Sunday, I guess I'll do bowl games for the week as well as the playoff preview. And then I'm thinking day after the playoffs, I'll probably post another preview for the bowl games coming up that weekend, but then also to recap the playoffs. It's going to be, the schedule is going to be a little different just based on the college football schedule itself. But you can expect 2 episodes this week and next week, at least. And then from there, it's going to be kind of touch and go. We'll kind of play it out by ear, see how it goes, see how it rolls out. But thank you all for joining me. I'll talk to you guys later this week.